Hello and welcome to iDivas. For those of you who don't know, I'm Tricia and I'm passionate about inspiring women to not just hang in there, but to thrive. Today I'm going to share some bad habits that can make you unattractive. These faux pas that I'm talking about have nothing to do with physical appearances. Despite popular belief, what makes someone attractive or not is more than just their physical attractiveness. It has to do with, among other things, one's personality, manners, or ability to arouse interest and engage people. So ladies, here are 8 habits that are making you unattractive. First, a woman who refuses to take personal responsibility for her mistakes or decisions and just blames other people for her problems is very difficult to be attracted to, let alone build a platonic or romantic relationship with. This woman has a strong victim mentality, and she usually basks in her misery. And so people will limit their interactions with her because, they're not blind. They can see the negative pattern. If you struggle with taking personal responsibility, look at your problems objectively and see what you could have done differently so you don't make the same mistakes again. If needed, get an outside perspective from an impartial friend or therapist who can provide an impartial point of view and help you to get clarity about what's your responsibility and what isn't. With that said, if you are, overly pessimistic about pretty much everything in life, failing to see the good in the world, that could drain the person that's on the receiving end. That's not to say that some pessimism is not warranted. Just that if it comes across as relentlessly negative, it can be a real turnoff. I appreciate complete honesty from my friends, family, and my partner, of course. Honesty and optimism work alongside each other just fine. But it's overly pessimistic people, they give off a vibe that people with a positive outlook on life will find repulsive, and will not care to entertain. I know I have very little patience for pessimistic people. In fact, I don't want them in my life at all, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels this way. So I suggest, if you are overly pessimistic, that you try to find ways to really lift your mood and your outlook on life. You can also be seen as unattractive if you talk too much or too little. So if you have a habit of rambling on and on and on, and you don't let other people get a word in edgewise, it's usually because you want to be the queen bee, the dominant speaker. The problem is people will assume that you are arrogant and you don't care about what anyone else thinks or has to say. Also, people who monopolize conversations, usually they tend to excessively cut off or talk over other people, which is annoying. This will create a severe desire to get away from them and never return. Also, hyperverbal speech may show up as a symptom of ADHD or anxiety. And so you may want to, be mindful and get assessed if you have other symptoms. Also, ladies who do the opposite, saying very little in a conversation, can be unattractive too. No one wants to feel like they're carrying the entire conversation, while you sit back, because you're too shy or intimidated or disinterested to partake in the conversation. Although that usually happens when a person talks about themselves or alienates people by explaining subjects that don't pertain to or interest the others in the conversation, which can be viewed as, self-absorbed and rude. Furthermore, you can be considered unattractive if you have an elitist mentality. For instance, you act superior or conceited, boasting about where you live, how much your home is worth, how much you make, etc. Looking down on other people who may not be in the same socioeconomic bracket or may not be as well off as you are. So, make no mistake, others can sense that you intend to make them feel less worthy, and let me tell you, that is never appealing. Ladies who do this typically are catty, have low self-esteem, and their misguided way of boosting their self-esteem is to take aim at other people who they feel are beneath them. If you are rude to people in the service industry, expecting them to respond to your ridiculous demands, people aren't going to think too highly of you and see you as, nasty, or worse, label you as the B word or a Karen. No one is impressed when someone goes out of their way to treat people in the service industry poorly. Some women, like some men, have low self-esteem, and they often mask their insecurities by flexing their verbal muscles, being rude and boorish to make themselves feel powerful and important. If that's you, you may want to address these root causes and check your behavior before someone checks you. If you have a potty mouth and are dropping F-bombs, left, right, and center, you're probably not too worried about making yourself look good in front of other people. But mark my words, when women talk in a crude manner, it's never well received unless you are a comedian or something. You will not be seen as attractive, especially by those who are mature and intelligent, because profanity is a sign of low intelligence and being déclassé. Also, if you have shallow interests and are a superficial mess, that will turn people who are not off. Typically, the only thing shallow women are interested in is gossip, typically about which celebrities are dating or pregnant and who in their social circle is gaining weight. Gossiping is a serious form of amusement for them. And most people, who don't want their social circle made up of people who are at the shallowest end of society's pool will not associate with them. They know that having real hobbies and interests can increase your interactions with people and the value that you bring to each other. Last, if you have no self-confidence, that is unattractive. Excessive self-deprecation or an excessive need for validation and reassurance, or endless expressions of self-loathing will turn a lot of people off, especially men. Men are very visually driven, and they believe, they've done studies on this, they believe that an average looking woman is more attractive than a model looking woman who is extremely insecure and has no self-confidence. And so you may want to work on building your self-confidence if needed. A book that I highly recommend is Napoleon Hill's Self-Confidence Formula. I have read several of his books. He's very much a deep thinker. and a respected author. The other thing I wanted to mention about self-confidence, and it is very much a pet peeve of mine, is when women uptalk. It's usually younger women who tend to do this. When I say uptalk, I mean that, they end every sentence on a high, sounding like a question. It is the most annoying sound, but it's usually a sign of insecurity or low self-esteem. You may, if you do speak like this, let me tell you, it's not cute. And be mindful of how you're being perceived, because for a lot of people like myself and others, it's pollution to the air. It is so annoying. But usually that goes away as they move into adulthood, past the age of 30. It's typically girls that are in their teens or women that are in their early to mid 20s that have that bad habit. But it's really something to be mindful of, because that can truly make you seem unattractive. Anyways, if you have other things that you feel make women look less attractive, do share, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.